Hi, Acadiana. I'm Meteorologist Dave Baker, and welcome to your Tuesday afternoon. This is Let's Talk Tropics, as we kind of dig deep on any kind of tropical weather that might be happening across the Atlantic Basin. And if there's not, which kind of is what we're going to be looking at for the next couple of days, we'll kind of go into some other details of what hurricane season can bring. And later today, I'm going to talk more about the frequency of hurricanes hitting the Acadiana region. And you might actually be surprised. You might think that we would have more returning and making a direct impact on the Acadiana coastline. And it's a little more of a technicality. I know we've been affected by a lot of different hurricanes, but actually having the eye of a hurricane make landfall within the areas or the parish areas of what we consider Acadiana might be a little bit different. So we'll go through that in just a little bit. But first, I want to talk about the skies. We are starting to see at least a couple of isolated showers that are developing across Acadiana. Temperature-wise, most areas are running in the low 90s right now. Here in Lafayette, we're at 90 with a dew point at 74, and that sets our heat index value right now at 99 degrees. But you can see there are some mix of sun and clouds across Acadiana, some darker skies off in the distance, as we've seen a few widely scattered showers and thunderstorms starting to fire up. We've got one there going out of Youngsville and just south of Broussard. St. Martinville, you're probably going to get some rain. Delcombe, you're getting a few raindrops there as well. And a couple of showers starting to get going over southern Acadia and northern part of Vermilion Parish. And then just north of the Highway 190 corridor, you got a little shower that's trying to develop there near Basile. I think more of the showers and thunderstorms that will develop will be in this general area over the next several hours, while the western sections out here will probably see a little bit less rain this time around, as there's some dry air in the mid-levels that's covering the western part of Acadiana. So let's go ahead and get started on the tropics. And looking at the Gulf of Mexico, we're in really good shape right now. Light winds out there. Offshore guys and gals, you're probably seeing winds about 10 to 15 knots out of the south or southeast. A couple of isolated thunderstorms trying to get going out here in the middle part of the Gulf of Mexico. So some of you might be able to see some pretty clouds out there in the Gulf. Maybe an occasional water spout. You never know when you're out there in the Gulf waters. Meanwhile, the Central American satellite really not showing anything. A very quiet day across Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, as well as El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua. Down toward Costa Rica, we do have a little bit of thunderstorm activity that's developed there, and that also continues down along the Panamanian coast. The Caribbean satellite, as we look there, really nothing to talk about at all. We've got kind of an upper level low that's up here, a little flare up of some thunderstorms over the Virgin Islands, and a flare up of some thunderstorms here down near Trinidad and right along the north or the South American coast. A bit of a tropical wave that's been kind of working its way here across the Atlantic Ocean. It looks like it's going to bring more of its moisture to the northern coast of South America there along the Venezuelan coast. And as far as the tropical Atlantic satellite is concerned, where we can really see the whole thing, there's that little bit of an upper level low there, bit of a tropical wave right there. You got another tropical wave right about here, and then another one here, and then yet another one coming off of the African coast right now. But it is very quiet out there, and take note, you can see there's a lot of Saharan dust here and a lot of Saharan dust out here over the Caribbean Sea as well. So that is suppressing a lot of our tropical development, and probably will do so here over the next maybe week to week and a half or so. A lot of that Saharan dust coming off the African coast there too. That tropical wave there will probably interact with it as well. Now, our water temperatures, of course, have been quite warm, so that wouldn't have any inhibition in developing a tropical system. And get a little more worried, too, when it comes to the tropical cyclone heat potential, because anywhere from the southern part of the Gulf of Mexico, central part of the Caribbean Sea, all the way out to the Windward Islands, which are right there, and even out in the development zone of the Atlantic Ocean, we have very high heat content. So if anything wants to try to move over those areas and might have at least halfway decent atmospheric conditions to work with, those warm water temperatures, that tropical cyclone heat potential could really get something going fairly quickly. So you can go from 0 to 60 pretty fast when you got that high cyclone heat potential that's out there. But the Saharan dust is really going to be the big story this week. Not only is it covering much of the Atlantic Ocean here, but it's coming across the Caribbean, and we've even seen some of the tropical or the Saharan dust working its way into the Gulf of Mexico as well. If you've noticed some really pretty sunrises and sunsets, a lot of that has to do with that and what we've seen with the afternoon showers and thunderstorms. Not a lot of moisture out there either. GFS taking us out for the next couple of weeks. Precipitable water there is very, very low, as well as the relative humidity in the mid and upper levels. So even if something was trying to get going at the surface, it wouldn't be able to tap into a whole lot of moisture when it gets aloft. But there are a few little signs here. A little bit of moisture coming off the African coast, kind of working its way off toward the west late in the forecast period. But you also might notice that it does tend to break off a little bit right about in here, and then it starts to get absorbed right about in here. So we're really not looking at anything that could possibly develop there. GFS model not showing anything either. Big ridge of high pressure. This is very similar to what we were seeing yesterday. So everything will kind of shoot westward like that and then eventually move off toward the northwest across the Caribbean Sea. Unless something were to try to develop out here north of the Bahamas, then it most likely would be an East Coast problem, but more likely would be a Canadian maritime one, because everything would shoot out toward the north and east. And the Euro model is pretty much the same thing. Big ridge of high pressure over the Atlantic Ocean, so we don't have a lot to worry about here over the next couple of days. The only thing I think that would have any potential for developing is maybe a front coming off the East Coast, or maybe even a front that could get far enough to the south that it could settle over the Gulf of Mexico. And we do have a front that's going to work its way down to the Gulf Coast later this week. Whether or not it would get out to the Gulf of Mexico and fester doesn't look very likely right now, but it's always a possibility, and I think that would be our best chance for any development here over the next 5 or 6 days. So according to the National Hurricane Center, we are not expecting any tropical cyclone activity, at least for the next 7 days. But just looking at the pathway that we go through each and every hurricane season, the peak of the hurricane season is about September the 10th. We are in what we would consider more of a quieter period. Things do start to enhance as we get into August. But I wanted to go over landfalling hurricanes and what the average time is between hits. So this is all of the landfall, the averages of the return period from hurricane to hurricane. And as we look at South Louisiana, now this is all landfalling hurricanes, so anything that's a Category 1, and you can see there over the Acadiana coastline, the average time is about 13 years, and that includes Vermilion, Iberia, and St. Mary Parish. And as you get over into Terrebonne and Lafourche, you can see those numbers go considerably higher. But even Southwest Louisiana, that's been hammered so many times with hurricanes, the return time is on average about 14 years, but that number has come down over the past couple of years. But what's interesting is this number right here, number 13. I think you would be quite surprised that the last landfalling hurricane we had in Vermilion, Iberia, St. Mary parishes was Hurricane Barry back in 2019. So it's been 5 years since we've had that. But prior to that, it was Hurricane Lily that made landfall on the Vermilion Parish coast in 2002. So you go 2002 to 2019. That was a 17-year period. Now, I know that you folks that live along the LA 14 corridor were affected by Ike and Rita and Gustav, and we had, the hurricane back in 2020 that we had come through here. Gamma, Delta, that was the one. I had to go through my Greek alphabet, go back to my fraternity days there. But Delta was another one that came through. Zeta at the same time kind of came in through southeastern Louisiana. So, but technically a direct hit is when the eye of a hurricane makes landfall within 50 miles of any point. So 13 years is the average return time. But what about major hurricanes? Major hurricanes don't come quite as often, but you can see that major hurricane return time here on the southwest Louisiana coast is anywhere between 33 and 34 years. And this is one that's really interesting because the last technical major hurricane that made landfall. This is category 3, 4, 5, by the way. The last one that made landfall in Iberia, St. Mary, or Vermilion parishes was Hurricane Andrew back in 1992. That was 32 years ago. There's our average, 34. Does that mean that we're getting close to where a major hurricane should be hitting the Acadiana area? Are we possibly overdue? Obviously, you can see that we're not overdue in southwest Louisiana with Hurricane Laura back in 2020, and we're definitely not due for another one over southeastern Louisiana because we had Hurricane Ida that hit back in 2021. So, does this mean that we're getting closer? It almost sounds like, you talk about the big one with the earthquake. They happen every 500 years or whatever, and we're 50 years overdue for that over on the West Coast or whatever. But 34 years, it's been 32 since we've had a major hurricane make an actual landfall in our area. So it could be, but I've been saying many times, the way the state has been hit so many times, even though we've had our fair share here in the Acadiana region, we have not seen devastation. 2005 was eastern Louisiana and southwestern Louisiana with Hurricane Rita. Then you had Laura that came in 2020. Ida came in 2021. So we've had all these major hurricanes that have been east or west of the Acadiana area, but we so far have yet to take a direct hit since Hurricane Andrew back in 1992. So that is one of the things that I do sometimes worry about when it comes to hurricanes making a return to Acadiana. But I also wanted to go over too is a lot of folks do go, well, I'm not going to leave or I'm not going to worry about these until they're a category 3 or a category 4. Oh, I've been through all of these different hurricanes. But I think most people don't realize they haven't actually been through the core of a hurricane, a category 3, 4, or 5. But remember, just a week and a day ago, we had a landfalling category 1 hurricane there on the mid-Texas coast, and then the remnants of it making its way inland over the Houston area. And as of today, and in fact, I'm going to go ahead and refresh it here, as of this very moment, there are still over 137,000 customers over southeastern Texas that do not have electricity due to the Hurricane Beryl that came in just a week and a day ago. So 8 days ago, we still have over 100,000 people without power, and that was a Category 1, which I want you to think about that when it comes to your evacuation plan. And even though we tell you to prepare to be on your own for 3 days, make sure you got a gallon of water per person per day for 3 days. Make sure you got enough batteries to handle any lights or maybe some small fans or to charge up your cell phones and things like that. Having enough gas in your car. But this is 8 days. So we only try to get you to prepare for 3 days, but just imagine just a Category 1 did all this damage and it's causing power outages for more than 8 days for over 100,000 people. And yesterday, that number was about a little over 250,000. So they've managed to put about half these people back on the power, but that is a big thing to worry about when it comes to hurricane season. But don't want to depress you. We don't have anything that's happening in the next couple of days, so I think we're going to be in good shape. But again, as long as you stay with us with Let's Talk Tropics, you'll be ready because we're going to look at every blip that's out there until we get something to develop. Well, I hope you enjoy our midday talks for lunch. I certainly do. Like this video and subscribe to my channel. Tell your friends too, and also turn on those notifications. That way you know when tomorrow's Let's Talk Tropics will come on live or when Acadiana Weather Today's morning forecast hits sometime between 7:30 and 8 o'clock. I'm Meteorologist Dave Baker. Hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday. Hopefully some of you will get a little afternoon shower to cool you down. If not, I hope you have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow.